Thank you, Bob. Thank you, my friends. I guess I haven't been here for, 2 or 3 years. Bob and I have been debating about when I was here last time. Okay, but I always attended the banquet. Everybody going to the banquet? Yeah. 2 weeks? Yeah, hard to imagine I'm here because this same time tomorrow I'll be in Miami. I'm leaving early tomorrow. I have about 25 projects between West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. And I just came back from Naples, Florida, last Friday. Over a $10 million project that I helped to design a huge resort hotel. And then when it's built, looks like I had to be back to Naples 4 times a year. Okay, they said I become the soul of the resort. So if I don't show up, there's no soul there. So hopefully I find my many soulmates, I hope, down there. But it is a fun place to be in. But basically, these days, I spend quite a bit of visits to China. Last year alone, I visited China 7 times. And 2 years ago, I became the chief advisor to the 2nd largest developer in all of China. That's a polygroup of companies. So every time I go to China, every size project I do exceeds $10 million US. That's a minimum project I do in China. Okay, and so today I've done total projects about $10 billion over the years, over about 2/3 of China. So they value my work because everything I touch became gold. My Scottish friend in Naples told my advice. He said there are only 2 people on this whole earth he would ever listen to. One is his very good friend, who's a Jewish gentleman. Another one is me. In 2003, I charted his entire life, guided him through his whole life, the high and low points of his life. And during the economic downfall, 2008 and 2010, he personally made in excess of $70 million. That's what I thought he made. Then when I met him, it's not true. Over 3 years. He makes $70 million every year for 3 years. Okay, and he listened to my advice, what stocks to avoid, what to invest, what not to touch, and how the world economy is running for the future. And every conversation cost him $5,000 US, half an hour. But what he makes is multi-million dollars. Okay, and same as my fee now in China is 10,000 US per day. Okay, and everything they had to pay for. But then to them, it's worth every single dime. And I'm also advisor to quite a few management consulting firms in Toronto. So they say I'm the management consultant's consultant in this sense. So what I'm going to talk about is nothing to do with religions, nothing to do with superstitions. Everything is by calculation. It's completely mathematical. As a matter of fact, 9/19, September the 19th last year, I was keynote speaker at the largest university in China, Beijing University. And I gave a 3-hour speech, okay, in the Centenary Hall where Bill Clinton spoke. The only difference, Bill Clinton charged $250,000, mine was free. I don't know what value they got out of both. But I was talking about philosophies of the world, how philosophies of the world affected politics, affected the economy. That led to the European crisis. It all rooted back to the way they do their philosophy, their thinking. Affects everything. Very interesting. And then, I don't know if people follow my predictions. For example, last year, back in September 2010, I predicted that by early spring, Eastern Japan would have a major earthquake. And that's published in the Toronto Star. When the reporter interviewed me, he said, could I name one thing for the coming year, 2011, that would stand out in the whole world? I said, there's only one thing that stands out, Japan's major earthquake. And that will happen in the spring. And I was right on the punch. And same as 2008 January, and I actually predicted precisely in May that year there would be a major earthquake in southern China. And all those can be calculated. There's no secrets in this world. Everything has a reason. Okay. So everything about our lives, the world's life, country's life, can be calculated. Okay, so today, what we are going to look at is what has 2012 got for us. Is the world going to end? Anybody who think the world's going to end, raise their hands. You know how the rumor first came up? No? It's because in the Mexican Maya's culture, they look at the calendar, and for some stupid reason, the calendar stopped in 2012. I think there's nothing wrong with it. There are two major reasons why they went wrong. Number one, the predictor probably died too fast before he had a chance to complete it. Number two, the mathematical system may not have enough digits and end rate at that year. It could be possible because we are working on the mathematical system. But in my calculation, the world will not end for another 100 million years. But the human race that we recognize today will end in 2,000 years. The way we look today, 2,000 years from now, will look awfully ugly. Because most human beings, the normal human being, will have 4 eyes. My prediction is 2,000 years from now, the sun will be split into 2. And our face is a reflection of the universe. So with the sun and the moon, we have 2 eyes. When the sun is split, we have 4 eyes. But there's years down the road. I hope some of us will live long enough to see it. Okay, one thing about 2012 that really can stand out is that the world will not end. As a matter of fact, the world will do better than last year in 2011. How do I know that? 2011 was governed by the key number of 7. But between 2004 and 2023, in this 20-year period, we are in the world cycle of the number 8. And when we got stuck with the number 7, it's a receding number. And the receding number was in the center of the chart. That means 2011 was actually an extremely volatile year, especially with Middle East countries going turmoil and Middle Europe countries going turmoil because of the number, simply put. But 2012 is governed by the number of 6, which means 2 things. Number 1, change. Number 2, mobilities. Now, 2012 is also governed by a very interesting year. Anybody know what this year is coming with? Everybody got my little secret book? That's a tip for your next exam. The answers are there. If you're writing the exam next day, just read the book. Okay, this is a year of the dragon. And this is not just dragon, because dragon is very mobile. Dragon can fly. Dragon will fly high. In fact, I wrote 2 poems about this year, but unfortunately in Chinese. So you will lose the flavor when I translate it. Okay? Because one of my major hobbies is to write poems. And my first book of poems are already published by the University of Beijing, recognized by the highest education system in China as one of the most outstanding philosophers of contemporary world. That's what the professor said at the end of my speech. So dragon means mobility, changes, flying high. But to be even more coincidental, this is not a normal dragon year. This is a water dragon year. When you think about dragon, what have you got in mind? Dragon is, number 1, mobile, is flowing. Number 2, water can take any shape. You put in the square box, it becomes square. Put in the ball, it becomes a ball. Can be any shape, so changeable, unpredictable. Number 3, it can soothe your whole mind and body just like a dream. It can also destroy you. And water goes at very high speed. It can cut through steel plates. Do you know that? Water can cut through steel at high speed. Okay, so water is very interesting feature. Now, when you combine water with a mobile dragon, what does it mean to the world? So the key, the journalist would ask me one thing, what is going to be most outstanding in 2012? Only one word, changes. Changes is a word. Changes would encompass many things. Would be majority of countries in the world would go through elections, including China and Hong Kong, USA, you name it, changes. Okay, for better or for worse, I would say, depending on which country. Some are going for better, some are going for worse. So number one. And number two, the problems we encounter in Middle East will die down a wee bit. It would begin to stabilize. So the chaos is not going to go forever. Okay, because we are into a different number. And number three, money. That means the world economy is slowly returning. So when the whole world says the world is going to end, the world economy is going to fall apart, going to falter, congratulations, time to make money. And over many years of doing what I'm doing now, I have discovered a secret of the human race. And let me ask you one question, then you know the answer yourself. How many people are there, well, let alone the world. Look at Toronto. How many people are there in Toronto? Hey?
You mean Toronto?
Just GTA, including our neighbors.
10 million?
About 8 million. 7, all together, everything together. Probably less, probably about 7. Okay. Yeah, probably about 7. About Hong Kong size. Unbelievable about Hong Kong. Anyways, I found Hong Kong is one of the toughest places to do feng shui because you can touch anything and change it. There's no room to change anything. Okay, you'll be lucky to have a room to stand up. Okay, but anyways, that's Hong Kong. So we have about 7 million people. Give me a percentage or number. How many people are winners? How many people made it to over $1 million a year? The income exceeds $1 million a year. So how much percent? 2%? 1%? I would say less than 0.01%. Okay. So say, that's for argument's sake, say 1%. That's easier to say the word. So when 99% of people say one thing, you think it's going to be true or not true? Of course, it's not going to be not true because 99% of mankind are losers. Only 1% is winners. So when the whole world goes for something, it's time to get out. In 1980, I said one thing. So long ago, I said, when, okay, the cook or the market people who sell vegetables begin to go to visit the stock market, it's time to get the hell out of it. Okay? When everybody backs out of it, it's time to buy. Okay? An example, Nortel. When everybody was crazy about Nortel, I told everyone I know when they asked me, immediately, not tomorrow, immediately, get out. Those who listen to me, save the bundle. Because remember, 99% of mankind are losers. Only 1% made it big. So that means only a very few people, whatever they say, make it big. That's why my friend from Scotland, living in Naples, Florida, only listen to 2 people. And he has an army of workers. He won't listen to anyone. He will take the opinion, to take the numbers, the analysis. The final decision, one phone call to me in Toronto, take or not take. If I say take it, he'll take it. If I say drop it, right away drop it, regardless of numbers. So that's why he's so successful. Okay, so much money, didn't know what to do with it. He bought himself a $30 million company jet and wanted to fly me around the world, but I think it's safer to fly in a 300 people jet than a 10 people jet, I think, in my opinion. So change it now. The money center for this year is the West Side. Thank God, United States will be, for change, the money center of the world again. You will see the US dollar is going to go up. It may go up as high as 1.15 Canadian by end of the year. But also because of that, okay, the gold and silver may have a momentary surge closer to $2,050 respectively, and then immediately go down again. So if you don't have a deep pocket, I will stay away from gold and silver. Unless you are very sharp and you catch that moment and made it. You miss that moment, you lose your shirt. Okay, so very risky. Okay, and in fact, earlier this year, a friend of mine from Iran really urged me to buy gold, close to 1900 at the time, and silver close to 40-something at the time. I was laughing. I said, you got to be kidding, but I didn't say why. I wouldn't touch it. In no time at all, how much is it today? 1,600 for the gold, 30-something for the silver. If I touched it, I'd be dead in the water. Okay, but I don't want to upset someone who visited me from Iran anyways. He had this. Okay, I may get shot if I do. But anyways, that's something else. All right, so that's what about other major businesses we should get into? What's the second highlight for this year in terms of economy? One single word: energy. Energy will be a big thing for 2012. Anything to do with energy, you are sitting on a gold mine. This is a big money maker. I think more and more, for example, solar farms will be built. There's so much land where we are, what a waste. Okay? And land is so cheap way up north. There's huge money to be made if you do that and build it to the grid. Okay? So computers, high tech, believe it or not, is not dying. It's coming back this year. Because the most successful businesses for this year, rank number one is fire business. And those energy stuff are classified as fire. So you make money out of it. Okay? And also cars, battery cars. I don't know this, I read an article a few days ago about the death of the battery car. I forgot where I read it. I said, who wrote that article? But the key about solar energy, the key about battery cars, you know what the key is? Storage. Solar energy will never get anywhere until they devise or invent a way to store the energy. That's the hardest part. Okay? And what about the computers? I think Apples will continue to go up instead of down. You see another surge of Apple. I don't think RIM will die. Last year, I told all my friends to stay away from RIM. Too bad I didn't give that speech to you, but I gave over 20 speeches last year. And everyone, I mentioned that do not touch BlackBerry. That was last year. Those who listened to me probably saved the bacon. Okay, because they really fell down like you never seen before, 70%. Okay, so, but this year they stabilized a wee bit, but they will still be a very lousy way of investment, unless they change their management. They lack the vision. They use a wrong tactic. Now, what about Europe? Europe would have a momentary, stage of peace. But it's not going to last. The major problem that's going to happen to Europe is 2013. But this year, they will be safe, not the year after. So be very careful. Okay? And EU is going to be in a bit of turmoil for the coming year because of everything going on. Some countries are trying to back out, but they are being persuaded to stay. So it's a lot of negotiations. In other words, they are going to be given a lot of biscuits in order to stay. And that's what's happening. Now, in our human life history consistently repeats itself. What happened today is exactly to the world what happened to China 2,500 years ago, almost identical. In those years, many states in China gang up small countries against only one state, the western state of Qin. That's where the word China comes. China means the state of Qin, China. Qin is a state in western China. Okay? And all these 6 countries gang up to fight it, but they all fell apart. The EU idea is to gang up to fight US. So US is a major country. A whole bunch of small countries. What's the result? Left and right hand cannot communicate, so they never can really compete. What's the next generation, we had to look for a lot of signs are coming out very loud and clearly in 2012. The world will end up to be only 3 major states, just like China again, back in the 4th AD, the 4th century. That is 3 countries also. We would end up having USA, Russia, and China. Every country in the world will either cling to this, cling to that as part of the game. It's going to be very interesting. So USA's major strategy for the coming year is to move the military away from Middle East, where they got nothing other than oil, into Southeast. So a future Vietnam War is in the brewing. So within the next 10 years, USA will suffer again from another Vietnam War. And very interesting to project the future. But the change is this year too, 2012. This year they're going to load a lot of troops in Southeast Asia, more so than the media say, much more. Okay, how are they going to feed all these soldiers coming back? Okay, so all that is happening. But they also learn from the hard way, because the election is coming, and in order to jockey for position, number 1, Obama had to improve the economy. Number 2, he had to do something to show U.S. might. And the only way he can show the might is military might in Southeast Asia. Because without weapons sales, U.S. has no income. The major income is not to sell you any goods that we use. It's military, almost 90% military. If nobody would buy the run-down cannon, airplane, how do they get income? So that means they will try to have peace in the world, but they don't want peace in the world. As long as there's peace in the world, there's no market. That means don't expect Middle East to be ever peaceful. It will be peaceful only when the human race disappears. And you'll see those signs in this year too. A lot of things are coming out quite clearly this year. Now, what about Canada? Canada will do quite well, regardless of USA, as I predicted in the past 3 years, that the world downturn economy would not affect Canada as much as it affects the other countries. Why do I say that? Number 1 is I calculated the life cycles of Canada on a high cycle. Number 2, natural resources, hardly touched. China's economy will go way up between 8 and 9% this year. And India between 4 and 5%. USA between about 3 and 4%. Not bad, because 2 years ago I said it's -2 or -5. So it's really coming back. Okay? And then Europe in general, the financial improvement is about 0. No up, no down, fairly stabilized. So now you know where to put your money. Okay, now what's the second most important investment for this coming year? I would say there would be a huge breakthrough in medical field. Breakthrough in a way that a lot of so-called terminal illnesses may begin to see lights. Okay, such as cancer, they would have new drugs that seem to work better instead of on mice but on human. You'll see a lot of that coming, because medication is regarded as Earth. Earth is the second best thing in 2012. Okay? And the third best for this year is metal. There will be a huge surge of demand for iron, copper, platinum. Okay, so mainly for the development of high tech and also equipment, etc. So you see a surge of that also. That also means cars will have record sales this year. And cars are the second thing that saves the U.S. economy. Cars, automobiles. Very important to realize that. And the funny thing is, while U.S. in general hates China, but they love China. China saved them. They saved Starbucks. Starbucks is doing terribly in USA, but does marvelous in China. In China, you go to Starbucks, you are a somebody. McDonald's, you go to USA McDonald's, you're just a common folk. In China, you're somebody if you can afford to go to McDonald's. Amazing, isn't it? Kentucky Fried Chicken, extremely popular in China. A lot of things that seem to be in big trouble in the United States really found their life. Audi, the #1 most popular luxurious car in China. Why? The Germans are smart. They built manufacturing factory huge in northeastern China. And that really saved the bacon. And this is now an official car. Anybody in higher office, they don't drive Mercedes, they drive an Audi. A6 that is. A6, remember the model. So if you drive an A6 on the street, chances are they treat you as a high official. So automobiles will do well, out of which hybrid cars will become more and more popular. Now the learning center, so USA is so Canada is okay, USA is the money center. What about Japan, the east side? The east side of the world is called the Planning and the Learning Center or the Invention Center. You are going to see a lot of new inventions, new technologies coming out of Japan. Even though Japan will continue to have its share of earthquakes, this and that, but it's not as damaging as before. They learned the lesson the hard way. But they would have a lot of new technologies coming out, which in turn will really increase Japan's economy. And regardless of what the media say on the surface, Japan is dying hard to be friends with China now. You'll see a lot of friendship going there, which also create a very interesting thing for 2012 in the changes. That is, they may actually bypass the U.S. currency exchange. Because when they clear the trades over the years, they always based on U.S. dollars. This is a year that they're going to drop it. They're going to trade direct. And that's going to create a lot of friction between Japan and USA. And you're about to see that too. A lot of negotiations are coming. Okay? Now, the real troublesome place is Southeast Asia. There will be record number of earthquakes in Southeast Asia. There will be a lot of political turmoil in Hong Kong and Taiwan. And in our beloved country, Canada, you're going to see enormous turmoil in Toronto City Hall. And you're about to see that now. Okay? Some are just like soap operas. And some are stupid arguments of nothing. Okay? I think what we lack in Toronto, which is stuck with the worst sign for this year, is a willingness of creative thinking. The major problem with Toronto now is actually one most outstanding thing that you and I all experience today. What is that? Traffic. Anybody ever been in Shanghai? Fantastic. Before the expo, you couldn't even move in Shanghai. If you're on the bridge between east and west of Shanghai, you're really dead in the water. You just can't move. You had to jump into the water to swim across. But the expo changed it. How did they do that? The might. They created a lot of tunnels, multi-levels. 3 years ago or 4 years ago, CBC called me, had a radio interview. He said, from a feng shui point of view, what would my opinion be to change the traffic in Toronto? How to feng shui the traffic, she said. I said, wow. You know what I did? When you don't have enough land to live, what do? You build condominiums. Instead of going sideways, you go upwards. When you don't have enough road, what do? You go up and you go down. Build bridges, build tunnels, flyovers. That's how you do it. What about building all this LRT or all this thing? Very interesting, I said. Really go to China, Guangzhou, Beijing, or Shanghai. Wow, or even New York. Look at the subway system, and look at us. That no wonder we're all Christians. Why our subways are crossed, just like this. East, west, north, south. So you have to pray to get through the traffic. Exactly. And if you look at these other cities, it's like a web. It's a true web internet. Okay, it goes anywhere you want extremely quickly. Joseph came down today 1 hour, less than 1 hour by subway.
Yeah, I take subway without driving.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually here before 12 o'clock, but took me half an hour to find parking. Can you believe it? And I actually parked in the parking lot of that hotel, Cambridge Hotel or something. I parked. but I couldn't find a meter to get the ticket. They said if you don't put the ticket on the windshield, they charge you an arm and a leg. I said only have 2 of each, so I can't do that. You know what? Every machine that I saw had a plastic wrap on it. It's broken. It's not functioning. And I ran up to the front desk. She had no idea where to find one. Finally, I saw somebody coming. I stopped him. It looks like somebody who knows the place. Where can I find a meter to get a ticket? That took half an hour. Stupid. So give you some idea how much money can be wasted from bad traffic. Infrastructure, very important. That's money when you think about it. Okay? So Southeast is very interesting. What about Northwest, the opposite? Now, Northwest, we are going to see a lot of protests, disagreements, arguments, because it's now in the receiving center, in the fighting mode. So Northwest, you're going to see a lot of political turmoil happening in UK. I won't be surprised that if Scotland will begin to talk about splitting this year. That hasn't happened many years ago, because they are stuck with the life cycle of the world in this year. Okay? Alberta, Northwest BC, there would be a lot of arguments about the pipelines and getting to be more and more serious. And all that is going to happen for this year, because they're governed by that funding number 7 in the Northwest. Now, what about Southwest? Arguments. Different form, just arguments, not much action. So if you look at China, we are going to see some uprising in Tibet and also in southern, the Xinjiang, the real western side. Have you guys been to Tibet? Anybody? No? I was in Tibet last year. Actually, I was in many places. In Tibet in July. That's a mistake. I didn't realize July was the month they celebrated the independence. Like become part of China, not independence. Okay? And then it's crazy. We were leaving that day, 6 a.m. They're going to close all the entry and exit of the city. That's it. So the travel agency informed us by 5 a.m. we got to leave, be at the airport before 6, otherwise you cannot leave town. You know why? Only to find out when we went to the airport, how come not one single plane in the tarmac? What happened? It was the premier of China that just came to visit, nobody knows, to celebrate the event and was leaving the morning. That's it. In China, they can do that. Not here. Years ago, I was in downtown Beijing. It took me a while to get to downtown, but from the traffic light to the hotel took 1 hour. Why? They froze all these roads because a foreign dignitary was passing through. And it took 1 hour. Everybody stopped. And they could do that in China. So what I'm trying to get at is southwest part of the world, there you're going to see a lot of arguments. What about the south side? Triple conflict center. You're going to see a lot of fighting, arguments, disagreements in southern places, such as South America, and also part of Africa. But Africa actually is doing not badly. Even though there's a lot of arguments fighting legal conflicts, such as what you see in Grenada, you're going to see more of that this year. Okay? But there's money to be made. Now keep one thing in mind. The more turmoil a place is, the more opportunities to make money. The more peaceful a place is, the less opportunity to make money. It goes reversed. Okay? So that's how it works for this year. Now, so what about Toronto for investments? I would say Toronto becomes polarized. All the investments will be focused on the Golden Triangle. Golden Triangle is Willowdale on the south tip, Richmond Hill and Aurora on the north tip, Unionville on the east and northeast tip. This is called the Golden Triangle. I created this name last year. Okay, it became popular now in the community. Okay, people are using my terminology now. So I expect real estate to go up 20% average in the triangle. What about downtown Toronto? The real estate will continue to be built, yet there will be a lot of arguments and fallouts. People both would buy and then back out. And you're going to see a lot of that in downtown Toronto because of the 5 yellow force. Okay, very interesting thing to see. And Mississauga is the money center for this year in GTA. So I would expect a lot of developments going on. Actually, you know what makes Toronto different from other cities? There are 4 sources of income in Toronto. Anybody know what the 4 sources are? More so in this year. More so. Source number 1, China, for sure. Everybody knows that. But source number 2, Middle East. These are the 2 places United States don't welcome. Okay? Source number 3, Vancouver. Money is coming from Vancouver to Toronto. Source number 4, United States, especially from northeastern United States. A lot of money emerging into Toronto. So Toronto becomes the golden baby for this year. Okay, that's why we defy, or that's why I defy what the experts say that Toronto is a bubble. Toronto is far from being a bubble. Not yet anyways. But downtown Toronto, yes, a slight bubble because people try to back out or something for some reason, because of life cycle. Now, the Northeast Center is a joy center for this year. Okay, so northeastern country, you can see a lot of marriages, a lot of joy. In terms of GTA, that would be represented by Unionville and Markham. Anybody from Markham? No one? We're all downtowners. And they came all the way from Richmond Hill this morning.
Burlington.
Eh?
We're from Burlington.
Burlington, wow. Burlington would do well this year. Yeah, the west side. Okay. Anyways, so that concludes the different positions. What about Central? Central is governed by the number 6. But 6, besides mobile, also means money. That's why you see a little bit of life coming back to Dubai. Obviously, a lot of life in China. Anybody ever been to Dubai? Wow, not bad. I was there twice. My second visit was 1 day. I arrived there at 11 p.m., had a quick dinner, look at something, work for the morning, left in the afternoon. The next day, crazy visit. But you see, Dubai won't die like people said. You know why it went down so much? Because of Europe, not because of Arabs. And the Arabs won't want put money back in Dubai until the Europeans decided never to come back. So it's OPM, in other words, other people's money that they're using. Okay, now, and what about the politics? Okay, we talk about the world in general. We talk about different kinds of businesses. And you're free to ask anything you want about businesses too. And what about the weather? And what about health? Now, as weather is concerned, you're going to see a lot of windstorms in the East Coast. For example, Miami has not suffered from any major hurricane for years. This year, they're going to have their good share of it. Okay? This time when I go down to Miami, I think everybody will ask me that question. Okay, the East Coast, South and North Carolinas, would also have their good share of hurricanes. So if you own a house there, please be careful. Okay? And also on the east end, and also with the northeast, you're still going to see some earthquakes also. But the northwest side, you're still going to see a lot of fire events and also turmoil. But the northeast, northwest, both ends would tend to be prone to fire. So forest fires, house fires, etc. Okay? And so on the weather pattern, otherwise on the south side, there would be a lot of water problems, flooding for this year. Whereas on the north side governed by the number 2, you see drought. So Canada, we would not be too afraid of water damage, but be afraid of drought. Whereas the southern part, you are going to see a lot of flooding still, just almost like last year. Now, as the health is concerned, the major health concern for this year had to do with the respiratory system, upper lungs. You're going to see a lot of coughing this year. A lot of coughing, a lot of mucus, Okay? And finally, if you've been to China, you see in the old days, Chinese people had a bad habit to spit. You notice that? You saw those? I thought that's the secret weapon of the martial artist. when they can't find their short dagger, they use the spit instead. That's what I always thought. Now I recognize why. Because of pollution. Pollution. When you're breathing in so much dust, it's pretty hard not to do so. But then they make it a habit. I hope they're going to change it soon. Okay? So in a growing country, what can you say? Sometimes you got to understand what happened. Okay, other than that, another is, what about contagious illness? Yes. We're going to see the bird flu coming back this year. The bird flu coming back. We may even have a mini SARS, but not a large scale, because after all, this is not that bad a year. But so those people in that kind of business should pay to take care of it. What about the insurance business? Insurance business has two elements in it. Half of it is metal. That's a general side. The other half is water. That's a life side. Okay? I would say in the insurance business, it's extremely competitive this year. So you have to have some creative marketing technique to make it successful. Okay? But there's always a mixed feeling. In 2002 to 2004, I was actually chief advisor for Sun Life in China. They joined force with the major bank in China as partners. And I helped them develop all the way from Tianjin to Beijing to Hangzhou and Suzhou. So all those locations were picked by me and designed by me at the time. And so, but then after they do that, they send their own people, and when the contract would not be renewed. So from that point on, the whole business went downhill. And very interesting corporate strategies, I think, happened here too. Years ago, I helped ICICI Bank India. I advised my client to bring it from India to Canada. They did. And I helped them pick the site, develop everyone from Toronto to Vancouver. All the sites were picked by me and designed by me, and make them really grow fast. And when everything was done, they sent their own people from India and discontinue the contract. When the contract comes up, they won't renew it for the one who did it all. Looks like it's a world phenomenon. They pay you to do something. When it's done, they send their own people to replace you. But in hindsight, my friend who's the CEO at the time of ICICI Bank did much better now than before. Sometimes it's just life after life. Now, so that's how the world going to work out. To make a conclusion, the world is a better world for the economy in general. More people are going to be employed. That's good news. But the job market is going to be polarized. Certain menial markets will be gone. So if you're a high-tech guy, you're very good in writing apps. You know what apps are? For your iPhone, for your whatever. Will do very well. Will be huge demand. But there's one missing link a lot of people don't realize. Still belong to fireside. People looking after the old huge dinosaur machines. Huge market this year. You know why? You cannot really process a bank's data using a PC. You still need those supercomputers. And a lot of these people are retiring or getting old. Even me, I got out of it. In 4 years from now, I will be 70 years old. Imagine in my generation, I came from a computer background. A lot of these people have retired. Where are the young people? All these young people only know PCs. Who knows the mainframes? So it would be a huge void there. That means enormous opportunities. Okay, remember that one. Okay? And so that would be a good field. Real estate, it would be polarized. To pick the right area, you do very well. What about immigration, business? No problem. They keep changing the rule every other day, so you have to keep on track of the Ottawa to find out what's good, what's bad. Every day is different. But always, the whole world wants to come to this greatest country in the world called Canada. And I say that after traveling to 66 countries myself, I have not yet seen one country that can compare to Canada as a country to live in, including Switzerland or Australia. No comparison. Okay? So great country, so let us say eventually would still do very well. Best way to dock your money in. Okay, so before I get into the horoscope signs, any questions you'd like to ask about your trade or something?
Yeah, you were talking about Southeast Asia and the potential volatility in Vietnam.
Yeah, eventually.
U.S. and whether does that also involve China?
It won't be the same scale, but there will be something. Now, what happened is Vietnam is very smart now. Very smart. They learned the lesson the hard way. In a way, USA want to give them a lot of money and everything. In order to, see, it's like anyone ever played a game called Go, G-O, Go? Go? How does it work? So if you look at the Asia situation, China is a big piece of meat. So what USA has done so far is they have established Japan to look at China from the east. They established Taiwan to look at China from southeast. And they developed Thailand, etc., to look at China from the south, India from southwest. That's why they had to invade Iraq, so that they have, or in Afghanistan, in order to have something to look at China from the west. But there's nothing looking at China from the west. The northwest, they have still a little bit of vacuum. North, they're trying to buy out Outer Mongolia. Do you know that? How much money they pay Outer Mongolia? A lot of money, in the multi-billion-dollar, very quietly. They pay them a lot of money so that they buy them out to look at China from the north. So the south is a little funny. You only got Thailand, which is not directly kind of neighboring to China. But that's one country directly neighboring. That's Vietnam. But Vietnam is playing a good game too. You give me money, I'll take it. But if you want me to fight China, I may not do it, but I won't tell you. So they're very smart now. In fact, I observed a lot a couple of months ago when I traveled there. I actually went visit Hanoi, okay, which was like 20, 30 years ago, Hong Kong or China. And then I went to the Hue province, a little more modern, and further down to Saigon. I still call it Saigon somehow, far more modern. Yeah, I call it Saigon. Everybody calls it Saigon, regardless. And then I went to Singapore. I said, whoa. Singapore is like out of this world. I think the whole world should send people, politicians, to two countries and learn something. Definitely Singapore. And second is Tokyo. Tokyo. I've never seen people so polite, so clean, but also Singapore so strict. Okay? I hardly saw any cops in Singapore, yet it's so peaceful. Hardly saw any car accidents. Not like Toronto. Toronto will never survive a day without accidents, but not single one there. In Tokyo, it's crazy. You see lots of gap between two cars, and nobody will come in. So they keep they go to the back instead. Very polite. You get to your point. Whereas in China, you walk an inch, they are in. They are not driving China. But those are the two places we should learn about the future of mankind, how to make mankind better. That is Singapore and Tokyo, which I never quite enjoyed, but everybody likes that for some reason, because it's more personal. I think by looking at the world is more important. Now, this year is Year of the Dragon. In fact, on the way here, a lady called me from Cincinnati. By the way, last year I broke the $1 million mark. 1 million people looked at my website last year, worldwide. And this lady called me from Cincinnati. She says, Bonnie, the dragon is going to have trouble this year. I said, not all dragons are the same. Some dragons are dragons, some dragons are like earthworms, depending on which dragon you are. But she was serious. She didn't take my joke like that. Okay, but anyways, whenever you're born the same year into the same year, theoretically it's negative. But it's not necessarily true, because when you look at the person's lifespan, while we have something called DNA that governs how we look like, chemical-wise, how tall, how short, what color, etc. Done by this computer program data sheet called DNA. There's actually another DNA that governs the pattern of our life from the time we were born to the last day of our life. And it can be calculated right to T. My accuracy, somebody said, exceeded 95%. But I say I only exceed 90%. There's still room for the human maneuver. Okay, so our whole life is not a secret. The moment you're born, I already know your life. Okay, so this is also governed by not just a year, but also your month, your day, your hour, and your quarter of an hour, and your place of birth. So very complicated. It's a whole complete school of calculation. 100 times more precise than Western horoscope, which in my opinion is garbage. Because I had to study that too. Because you have to be a generalist before you become a specialist. Okay? And by using the method, I could calculate the life cycles of companies, whether the stocks will go up or go down and when. So that way you don't do the wrong investments. So not all dragons are the same, but because in general terms, this is a dragon year. If you're a dragon, you have a conflict. And when it's the same sign, it usually means health issues. Lack of energy, accident prone, and also people conflicts. But because of that kind of conflict, if you're a dragon, it's better that you travel. If your line of work involves traveling, and actually, you'll do marvelous. The reason is like doing Tai Chi. When the force comes in, instead of confronting the force, you redirect the force. So you travel, you ease off the force. So for dragon people, if you are in sales job, you're in international trade, you are traveling, sales and marketing, congratulations, not too bad. But if you are an office clerk, boy, lay low, like becoming an earthworm. Okay, the second sign is snake. By the way, dragons, if you don't know the year, since my little booklet that I wrote in September last year when flying to Beijing, I wrote 10,000 words in Chinese. On the way from Beijing back to Toronto, I wrote 10,000 words in English. So it's average about 10 hours it took me, undivided attention. I could never do that in Toronto. Every other minute, the phone will ring. In fact, my phone already rang about 10 times in my chest. It's beating my heart now. Okay, so it's pretty hard to concentrate and write a book here. So next dragon, is born in 1940, 52, 64, 76, 88. And dragons are born 1 year after. That would be 1941, 53, 65, 77, 89. So some of you may be born in 1989, I hope. But anyways, any snakes here? Snakes actually would do marvelous. Out of the 12 signs, snake signs are very good with keeping money and spending money. And very beautiful. In fact, out of the 12 signs, snake people tend to be the best looking. Okay? So this year they will do very well financially, and they would travel enormously. There are 2 major travel signs this year. Snake is one of them. So they will enjoy traveling, not necessarily in terms of making money, but if you're a snake person, you also buy up properties. This year also very favorable. So it's a good money-making year for the snake people. Okay? Now the next sign is a horse sign. Horse is born 1 year after, 1942, 54, 66, 78, 90. Any horses? Good. Horses, out of the 12 signs, are the most impatient, but the most energized. And this year, they have extra energy. There's an old Chinese saying, when we say you're healthy, lots of energy, what do we say? We say you're like a dragon and a horse. So in the Chinese, those 4 words, red slogans, okay, dragon and horse, so very energized. Also, horses enjoy a very dominant learning style this year. So if you're an educator, okay, if you have to write exams to get more licenses, congratulations for the horse. Lots of energy. But because you have so much energy, you also tend to be prone to small accidents. Bump your head somewhere, cut your finger somewhere. Be careful. Take your time. The next sign is sheep. Sheep is 1943, 55, 67, 79, 91 in the sheep. No sheep. Sheep is the #1 accountant in the world. They are very good with numbers in general. No sheep at all? Okay. But the sheep people this year will go through quite a bit of ups and downs, fairly unstable. So if you're born year the sheep this year, just take your time to do things. Just smile whenever things happen, good or bad. Don't take it too seriously. And just ride through the wave of instabilities. It's not necessarily bad. Just if you are in that kind of business, being unstable, and you enjoy it, you're an adventurer, it would be good. But if you're an accountant and you're a sheep this year, please don't repeat what Nortel went through. Watch out your numbers. Okay, next one is the monkeys, born in 1944, 56, 68, 80, 92. Any monkeys? No? We're missing a lot of signs.
There's a lot of people not owning up here.
Oh, okay. Baby not born yet. Monkey people are in the power this year. If you're a monkey person, you're working for a corporation, you have humongous chance to become promoted, or even with the motivation to start your own business. Very good. And if you're married, no kids yet, this is an extremely dominant year for you to have kids. Why? Because the monkey and the dragon and the rat together form the golden triangle, golden connection. So it's very helpful by the dragon year. So they do very well at work and in the family. So well that they will be prone to have more kids. Okay, next one is a rooster. There are two top signs this year. Rooster is one of the two top signs. Roosters are 1945, 57, 69, 81, 93. Any roosters?
There's nobody.
No. We got a beautiful lady here. Okay. Philosophy has this point called yin and yang. When you start with extreme yin, chances are the extreme yang will come and vice versa. Last year, rooster did the worst because it's opposite to the rabbit. This year, they're marvelous. They're marvelous because it connects with the dragon into a silver connection, into a very nice connection. That means opportunities are bound. So your boss will love you, your friends will love you. If you're in some kind of partnership, it's good. The only one downside of the rooster people, they seem to be a little prone to legal conflicts. So don't cheat on your tax. Drive carefully. Okay, I always tell the people vulnerable to legal conflicts, park at the car, make sure they don't tow your car, but don't pay. Get a ticket. You got the legal sign done, complete. There's a little secret there. Okay, but otherwise, if you have dreams you never quite fulfill yet, fulfill your dreams this year. If you lost your shirt last year, get your jacket back for this year. Okay? Now the next one is a bit tricky. The dogs. 1946, 58, 70, 82, 94. Any dogs?
There's some dogs.
Nobody born in 1994? Okay, dogs and dragons are direct opposite. When two signs are opposite, it means money not stable. Do not gamble. Don't buy anything IPO. You know what that is? Okay. It's a bladder of UFO, I believe. Okay. And anything too unstable, stay away. But because of the opposition, it will be somewhat like the dragon. Okay. So you have to be mobile. Since you had to spend money, buy your wife or girlfriend some good gifts, or renovate your house. So you spend money. Money had to be spent. You may as well spend it back on yourself. Buy heavy insurance for yourself. I'm the true believer of life insurance because it saved me once in 1973. When I bought my first house, no money. They loaned me my money. And it worked like crazy. I became a disciple of life insurance from that point on. Okay, so spend money and be happy. And don't take anything too seriously.
We put this in just for you, Sam, and guys.
Okay, now the next sign is very nice sign. Hey, buddies, we are the porky pigs.
I want to know what you're going to start out with.
Okay, porky pigs are born in 1935, 47, 59, 71, 83. Bob always accused me of missing sign in the past.
Not about the first one. Now he's got 35 Indians. Yeah.
And then, yeah, pigs will do marvelous this year. It was governed by a very powerful sign in terms of fame and name. You'll be very famous this year. Okay. Now, for the pig people to make money, the number one criterion is to become famous first. Your fame and your money are directly proportional. But there's a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work, though. So people, if you're in the people business, you're born year the pig, congratulations. Next one, the rat. Born in 1948, 67 to 84, and 96. Any rats? Okay. We always say two signs know how to hide the money. The snakes and the rats. You want to find money? Go to a rat's little cave. There's money there. Okay. Rats are the number one sign this year. The best of all the 12 signs. Because rats and dragons form the true golden connection. Money, great people, great romances, great. Okay? So any big dreams you have, please do it. Let your dreams come true if you're born in the rat. Okay? This is quite general, obviously. Okay? There will be exceptions, but in general, they're good. Now, ox, born in 1949, 61, 73, 85, 97. 97? You're raising two hands. Okay. Ox people are the 12 signs are supposed to be the most stubborn this year. Ox and the dragon had a people conflict in terms of relations. So if you're already married, just take it easy. If you're not married yet, okay, don't get married this year. But ox would need somebody like born in either the rat or the rooster to be a buddy this year to do well. But if you're a lawyer, if you're a politician, if you're a cop, if you are anything to do with power, actually the ox people will do marvelous. Okay? And if you're a secretary, make sure your boss works for you. You'll do well too. So the ox is actually into power this year. Now, tigers, 1950, 62, 74, 86. Any tigers? Tigers are the second most powerful travel sign this year. So if you're a tradesman, you're an international trader, that is, you're in sales and marketing, and you're a tiger, be good. But tigers are really prone to accidents. So be careful about cuts, bumping here and there, driving carefully. So make sure you donate your blood to the needies for this year or do your checkup early on in the year. Okay? Now, last but not least is a rabbit. 1951, 63, 75, 87. Any rabbits? Wow, the most sentimental sign of the 12 signs. Okay? If you're born in the year of the rabbit, you need a tiger to help you for this year. Because tiger, rabbit, and dragon form a platinum connection. You need some help. But if you are a lawyer, okay, and if you're a human resource worker, if you're a people handler, and you're a rabbit, it's actually not bad for the rabbit. But you tend to upset people without knowing why you upset people this year. So get a buffer. Get a third person to be your spokesman if you're dealing with a tough situation. Okay, so that way you do well. So that highlights the 12 signs. All right, so any questions, anything?